Urban Media Today is your source for entertainment, news, sports, and lifestyle. It's your online resource for health and fitness, providing tips to decrease your heart disease or increase your good spirits. When you can't find who made the top picks in HBCU sports or what part of the country is most exciting or affordable to travel with the entire family, Urban Media Today is there to provide you with all that you need and just a click away. Log on to urbanmediatoday.com now. Find us on social media. Urban Media Today, your lifestyle information and blog website.
Welcome to the Give It Up podcast on urbanmediatoday.com, where we give it up for excellence, leadership, and greatness, and where we continue to use sports and community as a metaphor for life. I have three of the greatest females in the history of the world on the podcast today. We have Heather Cratsenberg. I'm saying your last name completely today. We have Curleta. What's your last name, Curleta? Harris. I know your last name. I'm just messing with you. And Jocelyn Rouse. I hope I pronounced that right. Anyway, this is like the Fab Four of females. I'm including myself as well. But before we get started, I always like to say we are in the middle of a global pandemic, so we're still encouraging you to social distance. Not really social distance, but physically distance, so you can keep yourself safe. Also, wash your hands and take care of your family. So that's just like the shout out for that as we go. Now, this is the 2020 election, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden for the presidential election. This is being aired on Thursday, 2 days after the election, and we still do not have a president. So what I really want to say in my first question to you guys, and anybody can jump in, is how did we get here? Like, what brought us to this point? How did we get here over the past 4 years? And the real question is, how did we even get Donald Trump as our president? Can somebody just ask me how we got, or tell me how we got here? Come on, Curleta, you look like you got something to say.
Well, you know, I always have something to say. But I think I might have some controversial opinions on how we really got Donald Trump. I mean, like, honestly, just in my opinion, I actually blame like Democrats for getting Donald Trump. Yeah, I actually do. And I do have some receipts. I can actually reference a really good book that can break it down a little bit and just kind of give you some of the inklings as of why. But yeah, I definitely blame the Democratic Party for why we got Donald Trump. I mean, when you cheat somebody in a party that's popular, when you start taking like an elitist stance towards things in a country, I feel that's like, you know, the Democrats always were more so like blue, and it was like for the working people. And I think like the Democrats a long time ago, they kind of lost their way with that. And I mean, you had a candidate that was really, 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 really popular, Bernie Sanders, and people, like, it's a lot of factors. People remember stuff. I'm just gonna say that because I know you have a short show, so I blame the Democratic Party overall for why you got Donald Trump, why somebody like Donald Trump was able to win. You can't just blame, you know, all of the demographics that people like to blame, like in like the mainstream media, but I think you have to take a deeper dive. You have to look. You have to accept the fact that people who voted for Donald Trump, a lot of them, they voted for Obama twice, and there's a reason why they went from Obama twice to Trump. There's a reason behind that. So you don't have a lot of time. But I will encourage people to read the book. It's called Listen Liberal by Thomas Frank, and then get back to me.
Okay, so wait, you referenced something though that we got to at least talk about a little bit.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
You mentioned Bernie Sanders. So are you saying that Bernie Sanders, because he was not the nominee for the Democratic Party, that I know a lot of the what were they? I forget. They had a name, what they called the Sanders supporters, but I know a lot of those individuals decided not to vote for Hillary because they felt like Bernie got cheated. Is that what you're saying?
I think that was a big piece of the problem. Yeah, I mean, that's a part of the problem. Democratic Party kind of losing its way, and then a bunch of empty promises to working class Americans from the Democratic Party over the years. You see a party that's starting to pander more and more towards like Wall Street, banks, corporations, and that's not what the Democratic Party was supposed to be about. So then they left a lot of like working class people, in my opinion, in limbo with nowhere to go. So I'm just keeping it short. I know you got to.
No, I love it. Heather, what you got?
Yeah.
No, because I'm like kind of stuck a little bit because she just took my perspective and really, you pulled my vision and my thinking, you stretched my thinking into a different place, because I didn't think that, but now that you say that, I guess you put a different aspect on the problem. Because for me, I don't like to really necessarily look at the problem. I like to really get to the root. Like, where did this all start? I don't want to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to the root of this. Let's find what the real issue is so we can resolve it immediately. So when I look at like Donald Trump, I really wasn't even thinking about the Democratic Party. I was just thinking about the division, that's in our country. Mm-hmm. There's something rooted all the way back to Willie Lynch, all the way back to, over a century ago. So that's how I start looking. So there's all these people that have refused to change the next generation, and they've carried on the hate and the arrogance. And I had this conversation with Margo a few days ago. I really think Donald Trump, we focus and we zoom in on Donald Trump, but I think ultimately he's a decoy for exposing the differences. What about the people that we thought really thought like, we're thinking my next door neighbor, they think like me, share the same morals, and then all of a sudden you find out, whoa, this person is nothing like me. They're not thinking this way. All of a sudden now, they're talking about the potential vice president because she's a Black woman. She's a woman, and then you're like, wait a minute, I thought we shared the same values, and we really don't. So I look at Donald Trump as someone who exposed those people, because for me right now, life is something we kind of play this, I call it the game of life. So, you guys are athletes, when you play a game, everybody has their role on the field or on the court. So each person has a different role. So now we know who we're dealing with. Are you my opponent, or are we on the same team? Who are we playing with? I think Donald Trump, in my opinion, I thought what happened was all of these racists, some sexists that were just completely upset with Obama being in office. So they were willing to take anything because they were so disgusted having him there. I mean, look how they fought the Obama administration the whole entire time. Everything was a big fight. So I felt like we literally went from where we thought we were finally moving and advancing as a nation and as people. I feel like we went back a century in time. And all of those people that were in hiding, they came out. Donald Trump gave them that pass to come out and be sexist, be racist, be hateful, be bold. He gave them as a leader that that pass to do that. Well, that's how I thought. I never really zoomed in on the Democratic Party.
I agree with that, but like her question was like, how did we get here? And like, in my opinion, when you look at the math and you look at the history of the voting, in 2012 and 2008, and you look at 2016, and you look at the Democratic Party, you got to start looking at that's why, the why. But like, as far as like what you just said about Trump enabling people and emboldening people, yeah, I agree with that.
Josh, what you got for us?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I loved all your points. I would just always come back to the fact that this is a country that was founded on, genocide, enslavement of African people, and has never been able to admit what they did. Like, we never had a reconciliation. When you see, even South Africa had a reconciliation, Germany had a reconciliation, Rwanda had a reconciliation, and because the United States sort of, they literally, we had our racist past, and it's become our racist present because after the Civil War, the South was literally able to rewrite their history. They rewrote their history that it wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights, and it wasn't about, you know what I mean? Like it's like they whitewashed evil when evil wasn't evil anymore. So that's why you got when hey, I'm old enough that I remember when Roots came out, and that was like and you look at Roots now and it's so freaking tame. But when Roots came out, that was shocking because people had this idea of slavery that, it was just, some, Black people being taken care of by white people. And it was like, oh my gosh, you mean that rapes went on? Oh, you mean that they were sold on? It's like, that's how deep and deceptive and evil that this system was, that they literally were able to tell that one of the darkest periods of I would say history, at least for Black people, became like not that big of a deal. It was like, I mean, how can you whitewash slavery that literally people thought, oh, it wasn't so bad. They fed you and took care of you and blah, 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 blah. And, why are you, I mean, and then, so we were able to, everything that happened since slavery, they look at everything like the war on poverty and the affirmative action system, and everything that happened, they said, oh, that's for Black people. But if you look at every single so-called, big plan that was for Black people, really other people, white women were the biggest recipients of the affirmative action. Like people act like, when I remember being in school and people like, I was in school in the 70s and early 80s in high school, and people would look at me like, oh, you're an affirmative action baby. And I'm like looking at all these white women, I'm like, no, you're the affirmative action baby. So they like, it's how can you commit this huge atrocity of basically killing a people, which they did with our indigenous brothers and sisters. They killed a people. Like there were 5 million Native Americans before Europeans came on. There's less than 300,000, or less than about 350,000 indigenous Americans now. So they committed genocide on a people, and then they enslaved us, and then all of a sudden, like everybody wants to be Indian, like everybody marched with Martin Luther King, but now they love Martin Luther King now. They didn't like him back so much.
Right.
Everybody's claiming Indian ancestry and indigenous ancestry, but when back then they were giving them smallpox blankets and bashing babies in heads and with shovels and whatever. I mean, it's just like America.
Jocelyn.
That's it.
That's it. She dropped the mic.
That's it. If you can't reconcile your past, you can never even be honest about your future. Like you can't even be honest. Americans, we can't be honest. So
right.
If you whitewash your past, it's like we're just living in,
we are going in this direction.
It really is, the truth will set you free. So it really is not the Democrats or the Republicans, even though that's part of it. It's all, but we have perpetuated this system of lies, and it's informed our present, and it's informed our present.
It's ironic that we're talking about this because I wasn't planning on going in this direction, but I like the direction it's going in because, I was sitting in on a school function yesterday talking to kids. And, we had an honest conversation about race in the election, and there were probably only like 2 or 3 Black people there, me being the only Black teacher, maybe 2 other Black students, and everybody else was either white or Indian or from some other cultural background. And basically one kid said at the end of it, and it was like the greatest thing I've ever heard. He's like, you know what we've proved? He's like, these conversations don't have to be hard. And what Jocelyn is saying to me, like this kid was I believe he's in 6th grade. He said, these conversations don't have to be hard, but we make them hard. And by not talking about the thing that has happened, that has shaped our nation, I believe exactly what Jocelyn is saying, that has led to the point where we are today, where we have this faction of Trump supporters versus this other faction of people in the United States. And we're totally divided, like Heather said. So, yeah. And you have a president that has decided that diversity is something we should take out of every aspect of society, because talking about diversity and talking about race causes us to be divided. When in fact, it's the exact opposite. By talking about those things and sharing your experiences,
you get free.
You come together.
You become free. Exactly. I mean, and that's why we have conversations about whether or not we should have statues up about the founding member of the Ku Klux Klan. Like, really, are we having this conversation? Like, but that's how crazy it is. We have conversations about, like, why should Black people not have to go past the founder of the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan? Like, really, we got to have this conversation.
That's the thing.
Because they think that we're, like, Black people are going to say, and we hate you, and we want to do the same thing that you do, and it's their fear. It's exactly what Martin Luther King says. We want to free ourselves, but really, in freeing ourselves, we're going to free them too. We're going to free them too.
I like it. Jump in, y'all.
Are you still on the same topic of why we got Donald Trump, or are you going to ask another question?
Listen, we can just go whatever we go with. I can give you another question. So let's now that we have Donald Trump, let's go in this direction. And the election is here. So my next question, I guess, would be, why do you think this election, and it's basically what we're talking about. I think I already know the answer. Why do you think the election has been this close? It goes back to what Jocelyn's talking about, I believe. Why is it this close? Speechless.
Well, I don't know. Like, I want to see how the results come in. I mean, definitely, it's close. But when you say close, what do you mean? The popular vote right now is not close. It's a separation of about 3 million votes. And if the math keeps trending the way that it's trending as we speak right now, it's not going to be close to the electoral votes either. And so what do you mean by close? You know, I see a lot of people saying close, and I'm like, well, what are you saying by close? Because
I agree.
It's not going to be
close. I agree with you. And can you do me a favor? Like I said, I had to shut down because I get too emotional, so I shut down the television. Could you just give us an update of exactly what's going on right now? Like, what is going on?
As far as all of the math and what they are saying and reporting that's trending is, it looks like right now, and of course, it may be totally different by the time you air this, but if Biden takes Pennsylvania, let's just say that he loses Georgia, which is very close, Biden. And let's say Biden can take Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania. That's a Trump, and not a Trump like Donald Trump, but that's like running the table in the Electoral College. So the Electoral College then will not even be close. So nothing will be close. I mean, I think when people say, I think that this is more like it's drawn out because we're in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of people voted by mail, which they should have. You know, Donald Trump is the one who told his voters to go out in person and scared them from voting in using the channels that they have in absentee ballots and mail-in ballots. So, I mean, this is partly his fault for his own loss. You know what I'm saying? So Democrats did what they needed to do, and people who were against him did what they needed to do. They voted by mail, and if you have millions of ballots you have to open by hand and sort by hand and count by hand, it is going to take this long to count those votes. So I mean, like, I think that by the time this airs, it wouldn't be close. I mean, I know what you mean by like close. It's a divided country for sure, but like close, I don't know if it's so close.
Heather?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I've been keeping track. My daughter keeps me posted. I just honestly, I have to protect my peace, and it's not just during the election, it's all the time. So I stay away from the media. I stay away from the television. I just surround myself with positive energy just to keep myself in a good spot. So, you know, I know what's going on in the world, but I don't really know, I'm not as informed as you. So I was kind of like along the same lines as Margo. I thought we were close. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I guess because I was looking at the electoral votes my daughter was sending me. But I wasn't surprised if I thought we were close, because I was like, you know, the Trump supporters, one thing I have found about them is they're loud. They're loud. And I learned a long time ago, usually the loudest one in the room is the most afraid, right? So, I mean, you look at them, they got their big flags hanging off their trucks.
Bullies are loud.
They're driving down the street with flags hanging off trucks.
Bullies are loud.
Do a flags hanging off your truck.
Yeah,
they're loud, but they're usually fearful.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. So when I saw that, I was like, they're showing up. But honestly, if you have a conversation with them and you start asking them, because for me, when I communicate with people, I don't want to be like fighting back and forth with you. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. And I've yet to have a conversation with a Trump supporter that can fully explain to you why they are in full support of him. No, they instantly get defensive. They instantly turn angry. And so, you know, I thought they're going to show up anyway just to be in opposition of Biden supporters. You know, so when I saw the electoral votes, I wasn't surprised about that. But thank you for catching me up to speed, because
Yeah,
That's good.
Keep us,
That's good news.
keep us together. So, Jocelyn, are you all? Have you dove deep into this television
Thank you,
coverage,
girl.
or what are you doing?
I listen to every single second. I listened to every single second. I was up till 2 a.m. watching them do the vote count. I went to bed. I got up this morning. I watched more vote count. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It really, and I completely agree with Heather. Like usually, I have been doing very well before this, but because I've campaigned. I campaign for Barack. I campaign for Hillary. I campaign in off elections. I campaign for Connor Land. So because I campaign, and a good friend of mine, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she so with a lot of extra time, she follows every second, and that's who text I'm on. So I listened, and I wasn't worried because I really felt like, I remember when I campaigned for Hillary back in 2016, the energy was completely different. I could tell right then that she wasn't going to win. Like I was going around in my black neighborhood because that's where my girlfriend lives out in Bethel Park. And before then I was like, oh no, I got to stay for Hillary. I got to stay in my neighborhood because I just got that feeling like, with Barack, it was like, yeah, I'm going to vote. My grandmama's going to vote. My cousin's going to vote. I'm getting my neighbor to vote. It was not like that at all with Hillary. It wasn't like they dislike, black folks disliked Hillary. They just didn't have they were apathetic. Like that's what I told people. Like you could feel the apathy. So I felt like, oh, I got to vote. I got to canvass my neighborhood, and everybody was like, yeah, I'm going to vote. But you could tell they weren't going to vote. And I'm like, I said, I can make arrangements for you. I can pick you up. I can get a ride for you. And people were just apathetic. So on election day, I wasn't surprised at all. Even though it was, I realized that people don't know. They don't know, I was raised in an extremely active household. My dad very much, I went to go vote with my parents since I was little. So I always understood the power of voting and what it meant, not just, you know what I mean? I mean, Trump is, he's appointed 200 unqualified federal judges, which will mean more time for black people. And people didn't understand that. I'm like, it's going to be critical for us to go vote. And people were like, they were talking about, Donald Trump believes in the criminal justice reform. That's bullshit. Those 200 federal judges he elected, and many of whom were unqualified by the Bar Association, they're going to follow the same ways that Scalia, they're in that tradition. And that means that black people, we're going to suffer. We're going to get more poison in our neighborhoods. They're going to do more deregulation and more asthma for our kids. And it frustrates me that black people don't get that, because they were apathetic with, Hillary, she's not Barack. I'm like, what does that make?
Jocelyn, but that goes to the education, and it's not only felt in the lack of education, I would say, or money and support behind proper education, no matter where you live, you know what I mean, in the United States. And that's not something that only impacts black people, it also impacts working class.
I mean, I know I was being, I'm not blaming, I'm not blaming, but it was very frustrating because people were acting like it always becomes an occult, like a personality, like the why people go to this church. Oh, I like the minister. Like, really, you kind of missing the point.
And I'm like, popularity contest instead of issues.
Right. And that's what I always felt like, with Barack, it was like, oh, I'm going to bring my grandmama, my mom, and my cousin, and my cousin, and Donald Street. And with Hillary, it was like, she doesn't excite me. And I'm like, oh, but, maybe you don't want that, that fifth polluting industry in your neighborhood. Maybe you don't want your kids to get cancer and asthma. Maybe you don't want your relatives going to jail for more time because these judges overlook what the police do over and over and over and over and still give black men more time. And so despite what, I don't understand how Trump frees one black woman or two. I think there were two black women who has already served way too much time in jail, and all of a sudden he became the criminal justice president. And
when you talk to a propaganda machine. So
exactly.
Now
it's a propaganda machine. Exactly.
And we have to continue to educate, have shows like this, people like you who are informed. You have to keep speaking to young generation whoever older generation and inform.
But it doesn't help that Ice Cube is getting on TV saying like he like, you know, not being informed a minute, but he's got a huge platform, and all of a sudden he's talking about Donald Trump's going to give black people $500 million, and I'm like, oh, you mean the same Donald Trump who's going to build that wall? Like, really? We taking the word of this mofo over here?
Hey, Jocelyn, let me jump in for a minute. I want to piggyback on something that you were saying, because I'm somebody that's campaigned and actually ran my own campaigns for presidential candidates, going back to John Kerry and Al Gore. And so what happened for me, and I was at every Hillary rally, I canvassed and did phone banking for President Obama and Hillary Clinton. And when President Trump won, I literally shut down my life with politics. I was like, the fact that I'm living in a country that could go this direction, it literally made me drop off the face of the earth of politics. And so I'm coming back into it as, you know, we got closer to this election, and just the sheer disbelief that we live.
That's when you got to stay in it, Margo. That's when you really have to stay in it.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I'm back. I got my mind right now. I think I'm back. I'm back in the game. And yeah.
Yeah. That's when it becomes like ultra important for you to stay in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you have to come in and you have to fight like a lot of the American public is fighting right now. Like, I don't think Biden is like the best candidate. I don't like Joe Biden. Like,
I love Joe Biden, but I don't know if he's the best candidate.
I don't like Joe Biden. Okay, like he's not like I don't dislike Joe Biden.
I mean, I like him as a person, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't dislike him as a person.
It's about personhood.
Some of his his person, like, that's fine. I don't dislike him as a person. A lot of his politics, I'm like, but like I won't get into like what all of my politics are. I'm like, probably I lean a lot progressive. So he's like a moderate Democrat that's damn near Republican. So I don't like Joe Biden.
He's definitely moderate.
I have enough sense to understand you gotta know how the politics work. Like Jocelyn was saying, you have to understand how politics work. And sometimes you're gonna have to elect somebody who you're not in love with, but who you know is gonna be the best to push your agenda forward. I know that between these two fools, who my best pathway is some of the things that I want. So you have to go, you still have to be engaged. You have to activate yourself, and you have to get past it. I mean, like, Republicans are going to continue to get victories. And I mean, that's why we live in a democracy, and it'll be like this until the world blows. Like, you just have to continue the good fight all the time. You can't, like John Lewis said, you can't let up. You have to.
Good trouble, you guys. Okay, believe it or not, we're going to end this episode, but we're coming back, you guys. Time goes fast. And when we come back, we'll dive deeper into some other conversations. We can see Jocelyn now. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to end this episode of the Give It Up podcast on urbanmediatoday.com. Thank you to my guests, Heather, Curleta, and Jocelyn. This has been the Give It Up podcast. Thank you, and shout outs to Trevin, Kiki, and Mr. Alan Lincoln. Everybody give it up.
Urban Media Today is your source for entertainment, news, sports, and lifestyle. It's your online resource for health and fitness, providing tips to decrease your heart disease or increase your good spirits. When you can't find who made the top picks in HBCU sports or what part of the country is most exciting or affordable to travel with the entire family, Urban Media Today is there to provide you with all that you need and just a click away. Log on to urbanmediatoday.com now. Find us on social media. Urban Media Today, your lifestyle information and blog website.